everyone, welcome to Module 2, Graphic Analysis of Market Interference. In this module, basing on previous learning of demand and supply, we will use demand and supply diagram to analyze some relatively complicated situations, such as price selling, unit tax, subsidies, quotas, and externalities. Let's get started. Let's take a look at some basic definitions. Consumer surplus. Generally speaking, that is the value gained by a consumer in a trade. Consumer surplus is equal to the amount of money that a consumer is willing to pay for a good, minus the amount of money that he or she actually has to pay to buy the good. Let's take a look at the graph. The total value to consumer of a good in mind is the maximum amount of money that he or she is willing to pay. Suppose the market price of a good is $1. The total value to consumer of 1 unit of the good is indicated by the trapezoid between the origin and the point at which Q equals to 1. We calculate the amount of money that a consumer actually paid to the seller by multiplying the price of the good and the quantity demanded of the good. This area is indicated by the rectangle in the graph. So the difference between the total value and the actual payment is the consumer surplus, which is the shaded triangle in the graph. Producer surplus is the difference between the total value gained by a producer and the total variable cost of producing that goods. As indicated in the graph, the area under the supply curve between 0 and 1 is the total variable cost of producing 1 unit of the good, and the rectangle indicates the total revenue to the sellers from selling 1 unit of the good at the price of $1. So the difference between total revenue and the total variable cost is the producer surplus. That is the shaded triangle in the graph. Total surplus and deadweight loss. One way to calculate total surplus is just adding up consumer surplus and producer surplus. The other way to do this is to subtract total variable cost from total value, because what a consumer actually paid and what a producer actually received is identical. That is a rectangle, right? Deadweight loss is a reduction in producer and the consumer surplus due to overproduction or underproduction. There are two ways to calculate deadweight loss, and we will see how it works in the following situations. Now, suppose you are a government officer and you're going to implement policies to interfere in the market. Let's take a look at your choices of policies and the impacts of these policies correspondingly. The first case is the price selling. Price selling is an upper limit on the price which a seller can charge. Regardless of the price selling, there are market equilibrium price P star and the market equilibrium quantity Q star. By summing up the consumer surplus and producer surplus, we can get the total surplus, that is the big triangle A plus E plus B plus C plus F. When the price selling is set, like the green line in the graph, the new price is P1 and new quantity is Q1. Now, what a consumer has to pay or the total revenue that a producer receives is indicated by the rectangle C and D, C plus D. The maximum willingness to pay of a consumer is the area A plus B plus C plus D. Subtracting these two areas, we can get the consumer surplus, that is A plus B. The area D is the total variable cost. Subtracting total variable cost from the total revenue, we can get the producer surplus, which is indicated by the area C. Summing up our new producer surplus and consumer surplus, we can get the new total surplus, that is the area A plus B plus C. Recalling that the deadweight loss is the changes in the total surplus, the area E plus F indicates the deadweight loss. There will be some lower impacts on the market due to the excess demand, because now the price of the goods P1 is cheaper than the equilibrium price P star. People are willing to and able to buy more goods. so the quantity demanded will excess the quantity produced by the sellers. Thus, there would be long waiting period to purchase, or like sellers would take bribes or lower the quality of goods because they are pretty sure that they can sell all of their goods to consumers. Basically, taxes increase the price that buyers pay and decrease the amount that sellers receive. If you, as a government officer, plan to impose a unit tax on buyers, what will be the impacts on the market? As similar as the previous question, without any policies, the total surplus is a big triangle. In this case, it is indicated by the area A plus B plus C plus E plus G plus F plus H. With a unit tax, buying the same amount of goods as before, consumers have to pay more money. Thus, the demand curve shifts towards the left. Now, at the new quantity demanded Q1, producers actually receive P1 times Q1, and consumers actually pay P2 times Q1. Obviously, consumers will pay more money to cover the tax. The difference between P1 and P2 is the amount of tax paid by the consumers or the government revenue received from the tax. So now we need to consider the government revenue as a part of our total social surplus. Now the total social surplus equals to the consumer surplus plus producer surplus plus tax revenue. The debt we lost. The debt we lost is the area E plus F, which is calculated from the total surplus without a tax minus the new total surplus with the tax. Subsidies are government payments to producers that effectively increase the amount sellers receive and decrease the price buyers pay, leading to the production of more than the efficient quantity of the good. In this case, I want to introduce the second method of calculating debt we lost. Recalling that debt we lost can be observed from subtracting the changes in total variable cost from the changes in total value. The total value received by consumers is the maximum willingness to pay of consumers. Without subsidies, at the equilibrium, the total value is the area under the demand curve between the origins and Q star. The total variable cost is the area under the supply curve between the origin and Q star. The subsidies causes a downward shift in supply curve from the blue line to the green line, which results in an increase in equilibrium quantity to Q1 and a decrease in equilibrium price to P1. At the new equilibrium, the producers will receive P2, and there will be an extra Q1 minus Q star units of goods produced. The debt we lost results from overproduction, since the resources used to produce additional units of goods have a value in some other use that is greater than the value of those additional units of goods to consumers. Production quotas are used to regulate markets by imposing an upper limit on the quantity of a good that might be produced over a specific time period. Quotas are often used by governments to regulate agricultural markets. The reduction in the quantity produced due to the quota leads to an inefficient allocation of resources and the debt we lost to the economy. At the quota amount Q1, the price P1 exceeds the cost P2. This explains why producers often seek the imposition of quotas. The debt we lost here includes a loss of both consumer and producer surplus. If a quota is greater than the equilibrium quantity Q star, nothing will change because producers are already producing less than the maximum production allowed under the quota. We describe externalities using two terms, external costs and external benefits. External costs are costs imposed on others by the production of goods, which are not taken into account in the production decision. An example of an external cost is the cost imposed on fishermen by a firm that pollutes the ocean as part of its production process. The firm doesn't necessarily consider the resulting decrease in fish population as part of its cost of production. In this case, the output quantity of the polluting firm is greater than the efficient quantity. The social costs are greater than the direct cost of production the producer bears. The result is an overallocation of resources to production by the polluting firm. External benefits are benefits of consumption enjoyed by people other than the buyers of the goods that are not taken into account in buyers' consumption decision. An example of an external benefit is the development of a tropical garden. The developer of the tropical garden only considers its own benefits, but not the benefits received by the traveler who take pleasure in the view of the garden. The external benefits result in demand curves that do not represent the social benefits of good and service. So, the equilibrium quantity produced and consumed is less than the efficient quantity. We are about to analyze negative externality together, and I also hope you can use the same method to analyze positive externality on your own. In the case of negative externality, our supply curve is also the marginal private cost curve, and demand curve is the marginal private benefit curve. In equilibrium, government intervention involves in discouraging production because there are too much of goods produced at the equilibrium quantity Q star. Marginal social cost is equal to marginal private cost plus marginal external cost. Marginal private cost and marginal social cost are represented by the blue line and the green line correspondingly, and the marginal external cost is vertical distance between marginal private cost and marginal social cost. When moving from Q star to Q1, losses in total social benefits are represented by the sum of area B and C. Gains in total social cost reduction equals to area A plus B plus C. So A is the equilibrium that we lost.